What's that? The Michigan Ice Test recognizes the tribal nations of this territory: the Keweenaw Indian Community, the Lac View Desert Band, Lake Superior, Chippewa, the Bay Mills Indian Community, the Hannibal Indian Community, and the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians. We acknowledge that we stand upon the ancestral homelands of the Anishinaabe. Welcome to the Michigan Ice Fest. With title sponsor, Black Diamond Equipment. Live, climb, repeat. Sponsored by Patagonia, we are in business to save our home planet. The North Face, tested in labs, proven on expeditions, trusted by athletes. Mountain Hardwear, see wilder paths. Petzl, access the inaccessible. Scarpa, no place too far. Camp USA, lighter, faster, camp. Yeti, built for the wild. Arc'teryx, obsessive design, this is who we are. La Sportiva, innovating products that let you go where you dream to go, do what you dream to do, and live how you want to live. La Sportiva, for our mountains. Rad, we are the mountain people. We are rad. And Sterling Rose, Sterling designs and manufactures the highest quality rope and cord for the tallest peaks, toughest climbs, and most remote missions. With support from ERS, Hits Solace, Joshua Tree, the East Channel Brewing Company, Outpost Magazine, the Enormo Cast, the Munising Visitor Bureau, Michigan Outdoor Recreation Industry Office, and beautiful Munising, Michigan, home of the festival and gateway to Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
That amazing trailer, if you weren't here last night, is put together by Mike Wilkinson, who is a Kentucky ice climber. That's right, Kentucky ice climber. And so we thank Mike for doing that. He does an amazing job. And same with Chris from the Enormo Cast. So if you see those guys, give them a high five and thank them. I think it really sets the night on fire for us. Normally we have Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore administration here to kind of do the rules for the national park and to welcome everyone to Munising. Due to some new changes in our government's, the agency, they are unable to be here tonight. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but they put me in charge of telling the rules. So I'll say we only have 2 rules this year. So we prefer you to use our shuttle to shuttle into the park, and they will drop you off at the trailhead to go there because there is limited parking down there. And the other rule is no alcohol or cannabis at the climbs. You could do that back or partake back in Munising for that. So if you would adhere to that, that would be awesome. The other thing, unfortunately, we had a big flood this spring, and it wiped out the trail to Munising Falls. The Park Service, that's the only place you cannot climb in the park except during Ice Fest and except this year, okay? Because the trail is totally gone. So until they get that fixed, we're to stay off that, and hopefully next year for our 36th anniversary, we'll be back on Munising Falls. 35 years, I have to break up the glasses now. So parking around the school, what did you say, Tage Friday? We don't have to worry about parking anymore. This is an active school, so they'd like us to stay out of the teachers' parking lot, but I think we're all good for tomorrow. The climbs that are closed, everybody was awesome today. Basically, Sandpoint is closed except for the Dryer House and the amphitheater. Those are open to climbing. There are lots of places to climb that never get climbed during the festival. If you need a place to climb, just stop and see one of us at the headquarters, and we can direct you to something that might be more intimate. Coffee talks take place over at Gallery Coffee Company. Tomorrow we have 2 very exciting ones. The ice farming that's going to be happening at Kona Hills in Marquette. Yeah, that's where our mixed climbing took place today, and they are opening the park. So if you want to learn about that, it'll be at 8 a.m. at Gallery Coffee Company, and then followed by the North Face. They're highlighting their AMK kits. So a great opportunity to learn about ice farming and the things that are new and exciting for North Face. A couple other things, we've announced 2 treasure hunt clues. So we give you clues, you go find a little Nalgene bottle. And this year, our prize is, last year, I don't know, somebody stole it and never turned it in. There's a bucket of ice screws. So we just kept the ice screws. But this year, we're giving away a lifetime pass to the festival. So if you're young, you'll be able to enjoy that forever, okay? So if you find that it's an Nalgene bottle inside, all you have to do is bring the little piece of paper back to us, and you'll automatically get registered for Ice Fest every year. We also have, starting tomorrow, our remote route challenge. It's kind of fun. You meet over, unfortunately, you meet over at the headquarters, I think it's 7 a.m. Yeah, 7 a.m. And we give you a list of climbs. It's on the honor system. You go climb them, take a picture of the climb, come back. Whoever scores the most points will also get an awesome prize package of climbing. And then photo contest reminder, if you hashtag Michigan Ice Fest 2026, we will select our 30-ish favorite photos, put them on Facebook, have a contest, and you will get, whoever gets the most likes will get a free registration and a free clinic to the 2027 event. Okay, so 35 years, we had some slides showing from some of the early years. How many people is this or your first Michigan Ice Fest? Wow. Okay, it's amazing. So welcome to our family. How many people have been here for 35 years? Oh, man. Wilford's close. There's only 2 of us. Oh, yeah, PK. PK, there's 3 of us. PK is a local legend. He used to run the guide service in the early years for us, and then Arnie and I were initially participants and now involved with it. So we thank you all. We hope you come back every year. We really, really enjoy it. I mean, this is what we look forward to every year, seeing everyone, seeing old friends, and sharing stories. So we're very, very stoked that you're here. And one of those things, I mean, you all went out and I'm assuming had an amazing day today. We rarely get sunshine up here. We had sunshine and ice climbing, so that's really, really good. But the other thing is that we can gather and celebrate all things climbing, and I think we have some of the best presentations this year that we've ever had. And so I'm going to bring Matt Siegel up on stage and just beauty. Matt is a North Face athlete, and once again, this event is sponsored by some amazing companies that not only send the demo gear that you climb on, they send presenters to teach our clinics. Actually, they send athletes to teach our clinics, and they also do our presentations. And we can't thank those companies enough. So, yeah, give them a hand. A lot of those movers and shakers with those companies are over at our headquarters. So please go into their booth. Thank them for sponsoring this event. They also donate a ton of gear that we're giving away last night, tonight, and tomorrow night. But this is one of my favorite things to do is just to sit back and watch these amazing stories. And Matt is being sent here by North Face, Jesse by Arc'teryx. He's also a Scarp athlete, so we'll give them a shout out too. And they're going to tell you an exciting adventure that they just had. So I'll turn it over. Big hand for Matt and Jesse.
Everybody, this is my 5th time here, and I presented in the past, and I've had some big adventures since the last time I presented, and a lot of those are Matt. And I'm not going to waste too much time talking about my stuff here, because I really want Matt to kind of tell his story of getting into winter sports. He has had some really big ideas that well before he was really proficient with ice and mixed climbing. And I offered the ability for him to kind of get into these places and be really comfortable doing it. It was a bit of mentorship, and Matt has been an amazing mentor for me, as Matt's one of the best rock climbers for traditional climbing that there is in the country. So he, it's been a really good partnership for us. And with that, let him kind of start and tell his story into this one.
Thank you, Jesse. Well, it's so another thing that I decided, my good friends at Camp Equipment, Jesse and I are both also sponsored by Camp, just handed me a very large bag of ice creams. So, pay attention, and maybe in the middle of this presentation a couple times I might ask the audience a question, and the first person to answer it correctly will get an ice cream. But like Jesse said, we kind of have this friendship, partnership, mentorship. A lot of people over the years have called us Shrek and Donkey. Can you guess which one's Shrek and which one's Donkey? But like Jesse said, my background in climbing, really, I grew up climbing the gym in Florida, got into sport climbing, eventually became a member of the North Face Global Athlete Team, and really focused on sport climbing and trad climbing, really single pitch stuff. Once I got affiliated with the North Face, I was able to travel the world. This is Australia. Can anybody name this route? No. Someone's got it. You get one more try. Nope. Nope. Okay, we're gonna move on. But let's give the fine man Kachun, just because that is in Australia, that's close. It's Passport to Insanity, one of the coolest roof crack climbs I've ever been on. Don't worry, the questions will get easier. Yeah, and I haven't really left rock climbing. I still really love it. Just literally a week ago, probably to this time right now, I was trying this pitch in New Mexico, El Salto. I did the first one-day ascent of this multi-pitch climb called Sombrero de Shaman. As many climbers evolve from single pitch to multi-pitch, I was drawn to the mountains. Can anybody name this mountain?
Durango!
Yes! Nice screw. Come get your screw. We're not going to throw it. So this is Nameless Tower, Durango Tower. Kind of became famous by this magazine cover in 1996. Todd Skinner and the whole crew of Wyoming climbers traveled there to put up the route called the Cowboy Draft. And for me, for almost 20 years, this was like a dream of mine to go and repeat this route. Todd had put it up. Many people had gone and climbed the Eternal Flame, which is also on that. Which is also on that peak. But for me, this is kind of where Jesse comes into play. I knew that it was very difficult. It's like climbing up to 513, but in the beginning and the end, you have to climb some mix and ice terrain. So I kind of set out to, learn the game of winter climbing. Can anybody name this ice climb? It's kind of hard. You can't really see it. We'll move on. But yeah. Somebody over there, Sam doesn't need any more ice screws. Somebody back there said, Mom, come, you can walk up front. So Jesse and I started traveling all over, kind of some in our backyard. This is Ouray. And I just started learning how to ice climb, basically. A little bit of leading, a lot of following Jesse around, a lot of mishapses. You can see all those intro advice people out there, don't stare at your tools. And eventually, over some time, I felt proficient and started kind of branching out and doing some more ice climbing on my own without Jesse. Can anybody name where this is? Maple Canyon, right there. I was just talking about this trip with a friend Jackson, and somehow I got really lucky and went to Maple in 2024, I think it was, and it was like, my mind was blown. I thought it was like some of the coolest ice climbing. After a while, kind of started going to our local Vail amphitheater and getting really into mixed climbing, kind of like sport climbing, dry tooling, really fun. For me, this was a really cool way to use my skills that I've acquired rock climbing, but also like mixed and ice climbing, because you get really pumped and it's really cool doing figure fours and stuff. And by this point, I was like, okay, I feel comfortable ice climbing, mixed climbing, like it's ready. I'm ready to like kind of take it to mountains and go to Pakistan. But first of all, it was important to see that, even your mentors get the screen from Arby's too. Jesse hates this photo, but I love it. Before we knew it, we were in Pakistan. And part of the thing with Jesse and I is we kind of realized this was like a really big trip. We were going to be there for 6 weeks. We put all the cards on the table, raised a bunch of money, like knew that we kind of had one shot. And for us, we wanted to stack the odds of success of summiting as well as just to be safe. So we decided to be a team of 3. Just because we knew there's a lot of work to be done, whether it's boiling water or cleaning pitches. This route hadn't been climbed on in 30 years, so we invited our dear friend Jordan Cannon, who's in the middle. And basically, we got there and kind of hit the ground running and started climbing. And here's a little video of like what some of the face climbing Draco looks like.
Too easy.
And the truth is, I had spent like over a decade like dreaming of this trip and climbing up steps. It was by far overexceeded my expectations like tenfold. I wish I went to Pakistan to go rock climbing 20 years ago because I probably would have gone every summer after that. The rock is just impeccable, and you're there, and you're like looking out over the Karakoram and seeing all these like massive mountains in the background, and it's just absolutely gorgeous crack climbing. But what happens with gorgeous granite crack climbing is it's kind of like putting your fingers through a meat grinder, and it got very bloody towards the end. But what was cool is when it came down to summit day, I realized that all of the time that I'd spent mixed and ice climbing was starting to pay off. This is Jesse leading us up one of the mixed pitches. And we had these like super custom tools that were like really short, light. So it was like, we call them toys. Basically like a camp tool without the handle, like an extreme.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we ended up spending 17 days on the wall. It was like one of the wettest seasons that the Karakoram had seen, but fortunately, being that we were 3, we kind of went wall style. We were very prepared. We knew we were going to wait out storms. We actually climbed up there with like the worst forecast because it was like we were running out of time. There's 4-day bad weather coming, and we're like, well, if we could just get to Sun Terrace, we can wait it out on Sun Terrace and be into position. So we did that, and it paid off. And 17 days later, this is me cresting the summit.
Go on. Yes, dude.
Yes.
This is a photo of all of us, and I think that's just a very abridged version of this trip to Pakistan. But for the most part, like what this trip did for me, and Jordan and Jesse, is it really kind of nailed in like partnership. Like being in the mountains with the homies is kind of the most important thing. It doesn't really, fortunately we did reach the summit, but that's not really what's important. And it's fostering these friendships, and like we are brothers for life, and had like a very emotional moment on the summit. And like since then, we've kind of supported each other in different ways. Like this was kind of my dream, and Jesse kind of hopped on. And since then I've like kind of supported Jesse in his dreams. And one of the things was this whole winter climbing thing. we're all here to do, right? At first, it was just a tool in the toolbox for me, like a tool for me to like accomplish this goal of free climbing Amos Tower. But eventually, I kind of fell in love with it. And this is a photo of me climbing a Longs Peak on the Diamond last winter. And this was, I'll let Jesse introduce the film here, but this was kind of Jesse's Shrek's big dream.
So Rocky Mountain National Park is our home, and in all the years living there, I had pretty much climbed most of the peaks via some version of a rock climb with our ice tools. We just don't have that much ice in Colorado, and you can come into some real difficulty on these peaks, but it's largely like these crack systems that are they're not terribly hard, to be honest, but they're hard enough, and it's just enough to kind of get this itch for maybe the next thing. And after having climbed most of those, the next most logical thing is Colorado's Diamond. And the Diamond, who knows about, raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about when I say the Diamond. So the Diamond's at 14,000 feet, and it's about 10 pitches or so, and it's very vertical, very sustained, and no one had really thought about a free ascent of the Diamond. But the mixed climbing community, our little crew, it was kind of like an arms race. A lot of people were talking internally, who's tried it, maybe someone had, maybe someone hadn't. And so I started in 2017, and I was just like, I want free climb the Diamond in winter. And it was so much to learn to try to do this. It was a whole new animal, it was way bigger. It was a big part of that goal is we wanted to do it as a team, all free. So not having somebody do more and support, which made the challenge much more difficult to take on. And in 6 years, we changed our strategy a whole bunch, and Matt got involved, and we finally pulled it off last year, and we made a little film about it. Wasn't easy to film it. We did get a little backlash for it, and I'm happy to defend that. Take some Q&A after this, but the big takeaway here is that you can have really cool adventures in your backyard. And I mean, like this is as cool as anything I've climbed in Nepal or in China or these faraway places in Patagonia. It was the same exact experience, and it was just right there, like literally 50 minutes from my door. We were out there basically hiking to do this thing. So it's looking at something with new eyes, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of what we did up there, and I hope you guys like this film. We did it on a budget, and it's really hard to film when it's this cold, as you guys all know. So imagine what you did today, but like way colder and for 3 days with sleeping on a wall that's dead vertical. That's it. The last 6 years, I've been trying to do this thing. I've done pretty much all of the things I want to do, and this is literally the only thing that I can't do. I don't know why. It's hard as shit. Feel the goodness in the air. The gods are looking down on us, right, Matt? But sorry, the audio is off here. The last 6 years, I've been trying to do this thing. I've done pretty much all of the things I want to do, and this is literally the only thing that I can't do. I don't know why. It's hard as shit. Feel the goodness in the air. The
gods are looking down on us, right, Matt?
But this is the year.
This is the year, here we are. What else we don't do this year?
Oh, God. Go ahead.
Well, the mission is to try to free climb the Diamond in winter. It's like the ultimate fighting championship. No rules. You just can't fall. You can't pull on the rope. You can't pull on gear. You can't weight the rope. You just have to do it all free.
Not all the sandy beaches high anymore.
This is where we're at. It's like alpinism playing here. Skip phone calls. Hello?
Ready for the epic.
By any means necessary. Ice tools, fingers in the crack, gloves on, gloves off, fist jams, doesn't matter what you use, you can wear technical ice climbing gloves or crack gloves if you want to. The idea is to just get to the top and not fall off. People are gonna see this on video and wonder, like, what are they doing? Okay, let's go.
Here's your team. Where's Anchor?
So I started this mission, circa 2017.
Year one, you know, Cole, made it strongly. Pitched the 10, not too much whiskey. Made it 2 pitches up. Oh, year one, I forgot to let broke my leg. We did pretty well, to be honest. I was leading the first pitch. There's kind of an off-weight section, and I had one tool like really well set in the crack and another one on a really small edge. The edge broke, that pulled me off balance. My tool came flying out of the crack and hit my chest really hard. Meanwhile, my leg was jammed in the crack and it broke my leg. It was terrible.
And had to bail one time. Bummers. Gotta go down. Tried to OD that. 7 is pretty hard.
Year 2, out of hole again. Way too much snow on the route. We got to the same point. Total fail. Year 3, I got Matt involved.
Vinny on the Broadway.
All right, going on year 3. How did it go, Seagull?
Well, we made it to Broadway.
They all blend together. You just kind of get to the same spot and climb a couple pitches.
Yeah, buddy.
It's valiant effort, and I go 0 for 4.
2024. Went through diamond attempt. Here we go.
It's 12:30. It's golden and shit. I don't know why I'm here. Getting us to the bottom of pitch 1.
Turning my socks on because my feet are cold.
And then we're going to hike out of here. 0 for 6.
I'm 0 for 6 on the diamond in winter, and I hate it. I have a baby coming in like, what, God, 12 weeks? That's pretty soon. So I can get this thing done.
I see some splitter cracks and some dope ass corners.
Matt Seagull, I mean, Donkey. Shrek's partner, like his Donkey.
Donkey go.
God, our history goes back a long way, and I don't even know where it starts. He's kind of like my half little brother or something like that. And I don't think of him as that little, like he was a small guy.
This is my 4th season trying to mix Climb Diamond. He says it's his 6th, but man, I feel like it's more like his 8th.
I felt a little shaky on the hike, but as per usual, the little guy carried the big loads.
He's been like my partner and mentor in winter climbing too. During the training and the process for going to Pakistan is when we started trying the diamond in winter.
It's 4.
For me, it started off as like, okay, this is just a tool to put in the toolbox. This is done. I'm not into it. It's cold. It's climbing with a pump. It's just not that fun. I'm Nameless Power. I started to fall in love with the art of winter climbing too.
It's doing bread. It's storm spread.
We got our man Quentin Roberts. Where did Quentin come from? He is such a mystery.
Just sitting here in a hanging below 19,000 feet.
That's why there's blood rushing to all parts of my body now.
Who is Quentin's question? No one really knows.
Cold. It is enhanced by altitude. That is a fact. In Nepal, I tend to look towards rock shoes, but I was kind of rock climbing with rock shoes and socks.
Dude, if they get cold, just take them off for a second and run them, hey?
It's a way to push what you can do on tools in the winter. Like you can climb really cold temps with rock shoes, even though it's not very comfortable. And then you can climb on slabby features, which you can't do with spikes. And your diamonds can rock less.
You get MVP today, big guy!
Historically, you guys are Shrek and Donkey, and what does that make me at?
Gingerbread man?
Gingerbread man. The gingerbread man. The gingerbread man.
Do our best. The whole crew.
He's gonna go climb the bank. It's very classic little silver ridge ice climb. He likes to be by himself sometimes.
Pretty sharp.
Matt and I have this thing where we got this like primary relationship, but then we like bring in the third every once in a while. Quentin's good at pretty much everything.
He's super bold. People would say that I'm good at kind of ice and mixed climbing. Generally moving efficiently through mountains, navigating like different types of climbing. This is a very cool and interesting formula with like mad scientists experimenting with like a bunch of different super potent chemicals and seeing what happens if we mix them together.
Here in the Vale Amphitheater, getting off the cobwebs here with some mixed climbing. The Vale is a great place for training. Today, it's a fucking zoo.
All of a sudden, mixed climbing is like the most popular thing. Like,
This is crazy. Give it 10 years, this would be exactly what it's like on the done. Guaranteed. 30 parties just queuing up.
Look at this. This is why this is the dumbest thing ever.
Just drill pockets.
Drill pockets. Here. This is just the training gym here. Barring Q-tips, comp boots that are 5 sizes too big because I forgot mine. This isn't the ideal method here, but wow. Do they look big on them? My toe ends like right there.
It looks pretty good.
Matt, I would say, is kind of like the big thinker mastermind.
I got so much faith in these guys.
Quentin is the morale guy. He's coming in with like dump truck morale.
I'm bringing 110% optimism to a mountain I've never been to. Guaranteed you're gonna do this thing.
I'm like kind of the small detail dude. I would say I'm like kind of broad, the muscle.
No one likes cold toes.
Works pretty good actually.
Oh, yeah, they're all twisty, dude. First, truly hard route. This cave, never see anybody on it. Because it takes a bunch of gear and it's a bunch of pins, and you have to lug the shit out of it. It's absolutely early. Originally rated 10-9.
I have to go.
In the last 6 years, the mixed climbing community has really kind of talked about what we're trying to do, wanting to climb the diamond in the winter with the caveat of all free. Then there's D7, which is the winter route. Everybody has been A climbing because there's so many pitons in it, because people use that as their preferred style in winter. It's so much easier, and nobody's even really thinking about free climbing at the time.
This winter was the first time that the diamond had ever been free climbed by a young climber, Chris Duta, who did the casual route on December 21st, the first day of winter.
Decided to do it right before us, so now it's not a first reset, which makes this mission even more dumb.
Good morning.
It's a beautiful day. I just wanted to climb it in the winter by myself. Kind of by chance, the first really good winter weather window was the first day of winter.
slow going. It's really difficult to get to the fall and winter.
I was climbing the first 2 or 3 pitches with bare hands, and they went numb. But then they actually warmed up. About pitch 5, my fingers started to get a little colder again. I was bleeding out of a cuticle and taped it up. Basically, as soon as I taped it, that finger went numb, and it stayed that way for the rest of the day.
Any climbing shoes, of course. Now get the 1 pitch. Speed, limit. That was the craziest day of climbing maybe in my life. Definitely the hardest individual day.
And so that one finger got pretty gnarly frostbite.
But made it. All I have to do is go down.
We're embarking on the 6-year prod, baby.
Going to Long's Peak.
About a week until the end of the calendar winter.
Maddie is about to go. Yeah, buddy.
This is kind of like our version of what they might have in the Alps. I think that the newcomers who have actually tried what we're doing kind of see it as like really cool.
Today's the most day.
Is it not?
It's always true.
Number 1's here. Number 1 in the north, number 1 in the south.
A little bit of sunshine on us, which is very nice. Only a few more meters of walking to the chimney. Then we're putting our harnesses on, and it's still cold.
It's challenging, really, because of the temperature and the difficulty.
El diamante, luego back.
It's really close to home, so that's why it's appealing, but that's also why people don't take it as seriously as they should, because it's an easy bail.
Last 3 days of winter. Everybody has their own kind of climbing, and to find something that's like your kind of climbing in your local hood is perfect.
Okay, we're gonna do this in
Right, 2 pitches basically.
How I feel in snow is a day-to-day scenario.
keep going up. No serious pitch other than almost a chin.
Jesse's got it on play. We're making amazing time. Almost all the way up with Jimmy. We're doing it. Jesse, what do you think? This year? This year. This year.
All chips are in on this one. It feels almighty up here.
This is a little gaming.
Cash, Pullman Station right here.
It's so much work. I can't even possibly stress how much work it is to get into position to start rides moving on the diamond.
Base camp.
Seems they just got us to Grand Broadway here at the bid. So we get situated and start attacking headlong.
You guys are getting ready. We can go up afternoon.
Pull up some of the lead lines and refix the anchors on your way up. 3 pitches.
Pitches are what free calls just
Yeah.
Okay, gotta go.
Jesse, shoot, what you about to do, boy? Yeah, it's camera time! Seagull quick in pursuit. Ready for the second lead pitches, and the second pitches after the third pitches. There's Denver in the distance. Who's the line?
If you get like halfway up the wall and you fail, it doesn't really mean anything. That's been done like 30 times.
The mixed climbing is so slow, you can't do it in a day. It's harder in winter. Days are shorter and it's colder.
I'm gonna use my hands, my tools, my feet, with my head jam, with the arm I have to, whatever it takes to.
Free climbing is the standard now, and the closest that we can get to free climbing using winter equipment is this style.
we're bringing rock shoes with heated socks, and it kind of feels like it's the way.
So we'll like take our boots off, put our rock shoes on, crank the heated socks, so you're like climbing with the heated socks on. And then when you're done with your pitch, turn the socks off, take your rock shoes off.
Good. Haul up some down booties, my feet don't freeze. Put my parka immediately and try to conserve some heat before Matt gets here. Now it's gonna warm up. It's gonna get a lot harder. But I'm fired up. Oh, it's so bad. Battery pack seems deployed. First, winter diamond lead
Oh, yeah.
in action.
Pulling full measures here. I feel like it kind of comes into like a Threadwell look. Like kind of like a crusty, like.
Need a cigarette.
The actual climbing on the diamond is really freaking crazy because it kind of encompasses everything that you've done as a rock climber. So you're using tools some of the time, you're hand jamming some of the time. I'm wearing these like insulated TC Pros so you can like jam your foot in the cracks. We're also not using crampons because we don't want to scratch up the route.
As you go, the man in the back. Boots coming off. We found out that these things are hot as shit.
Dude, it's just such a bitch. I feel like we have done everything right, and it's like
So
completely in the air. We can do it still.
So, free climbing and stuff, dude? I did not expect it to be that hot. I was underestimating your project.
What do you think about this whole winter mix climbing situation?
TBD.
TBD.
TBD. But I did get a lot of on-the-job training today.
We are feeling very cold. I felt a lot better too. I don't feel so good.
Did you expect to feel good? Something about to come up.
I love myself with that.
The Q-tip, he's like the morale breaker. He's over there taking shits. It's just like, it doesn't matter if it's fucking cold, the guy is firing from up. Ah, shit! 9 a.m. Let's go. 5:30. Let's go!
About ready to check up to our high point and see throwing down on some pitches, dude. I don't think anyone's ever been climbing higher than where we're at right now.
In winter, we're getting up to push lines.
It can get warmer, but for some reason, it's like uniform right away.
We have 2 pitches that are maybe the crux. Get nerves up wide. It's really hard to climb the lows. And then we've got the really thin, elegant crux pitch. And try taking to the top the next thing. I've been like cyclist style climbing for so long. Kind of seems like the absolute ultimately difficult local project. It's just way more mega than you would expect.
I do not want to put my skinny gloves on right now, but my fingers are freezing. This is what we would do it. Foot in your face, boots off. Yeah, dude. Way under zero in Canadian.
You're out. Like you dropped your mountain boot and you're fucked.
Boot is secure.
Yeah.
I'll drop the boot.
It's like kind of funny that it's so close to home, but you're still in the mountains. It's backyard alpinism.
Because pushing the ropes high and God is steep.
Push the lines.
It's a way to push what you can do on tools in the winter. Like you can climb really cold temps with rock shoes, even though it's not very comfortable. And then you can climb on slabby features, which you can't do with spikes. Any diamonds are not best. And now with heated socks, it's an unexplored area.
pitches left. I think we can do this. I'm not saying it's in the bag. It's not in the bag. But I'm feeling pretty good. This is my first ever fall ever. It feels pretty good. You got the 18 run through.
Like, I'm feeling like I'm for school, man. I'm ready to climb.
I quit the school. I'm honestly more psyched to watch Keaton enjoy this thing. Let's go, boss. Quick draw, last pitch.
Looking right at home. It seems bold with ice tools in his hand.
The reason it takes so long is that all three of us are trying to do the route free, which means that the leader takes a long time to lead the pitch clean, and then both followers have to second the pitch clean as well, which makes it super time consuming.
A little swirly here.
Probably we would have done it a long time ago if just one of us wanted to do the route free.
A lot of the things that I dream about at night have humongous granite faces with a lot of snow and ice between them. And I think that this style is just kind of a stepping stone towards maybe completing one of those bigger goals later in life.
We're so close.
It's so much better than anything you've done.
But to pull those news way out of Ireland, it is much harder than I expected. It's also grander than I expected.
Push the line.
We sure did.
Oh.
Kind of rad pitch too. One more pitch to go.
Then I'm never coming back here again in winter.
Coffee's good.
Need some more milk.
Wake it up.
Get her to my sweet last night.
Yeah.
My eye is puffy.
Yeah, hands are puffy, eyes are puffy, nose are puffy, lips are puffy, face are puffy, yeah.
Everything's perfect. We're gonna take her to the summit.
Yeah, it's gonna be a sick day. There's the wall and the first light of the day. Hopefully this evening we'll be going down there.
And look at those clouds. Real time marking.
Final day here on a winter free bid, D7.
Conditions are deteriorating. Last bit of first 20.
Custom driving.
Come on. Nice one, Prince there. Yeah. Final moves.
That was a lot. So cold. So psyched to be here.
Don't know the rock shoes on it.
I am retiring my rock shoes for the rest of my life for winter climbing.
We just topped out the Seat Park at the diamond. There's many.
Somebody's improved his snow traverses.
Of course, sorry. It's unlike anything that really gets done in North America in the wintertime.
I think all like kind of wacky, innovative, like different style projects that are close to home, they get done are really cool, you know, because they have the flavor of home.
It's been really cool to watch Matt improve his skills as a winter climber. It's just been an amazing time to strengthen our friendship, working on big routes together and taking this approach to the mountains that friendship comes first. In the process, hopefully we get to climb some cool stuff. If you can spend a few days with your best friends in the mountains, period, that's where it's at.
Time to go down, we don't get it.
Wearing rock shoes with ice tools is actually really cool.
The next project, real project.
But I'll tell you what, it was more of a challenge than I thought we should have.
thanks for that. We have maybe a little time to take a few questions if you guys have any. We also have some ice screws we gotta give away, so. Anybody have any questions?
Detail the controversy a little bit, or?
He said, yes.
Detail the controversy at the end there a little bit.
Yeah, so this route is, in this space is really close to home for anyone living in Boulder, Denver, and I think that there were some pretty outspoken people that thought that we shouldn't be up there with ice tools on that route. And they equated it, you know, they had arguments that we've listened to. I think they're valid. And the thing is that there really hasn't been a conversation about this in our community as to, you know, what's fair game, what's not fair game. For me personally, I didn't want to take my crampons on this route, which I don't think it would have been easier to use crampons on it, but I thought that it would leave marks that you would see for generations to come. I really don't think that us using ice tools damage the rock at all. And having done this over 6-7 years, each time you didn't notice it. And there are at least 200 pitons on this route. It's been inclined so many times. So yeah, I think that it is one of these things that you can, you know, take home and talk about with your community, and it can apply to all different communities. I know it's started conversations in North Conway, it's started conversations places like Squamish where occasionally things freeze. But to me, this is in the outline, and this peak is 14,000 feet. Our eyes were puffy because we're sleeping at 12,500 feet. Our wound watches were saying that we're getting like 70% blood oxygen overnight and sleeping. So to me, I have done climbing like this in the Alps, and everyone in the Alps that I know cherishes it. And I don't want to see this become something that's done in the summer by people with a similar ethic of dry tooling in the summer. To me, this is a winter thing, and I think it's really special. I think it's a way to really hone your skills for the bigger mountains. So everybody can answer that question for themselves in this room. What do you think of it? And I don't think there's a technical answer. Well, there are a lot.
Anybody name another 14er? Oh, Crazy Tories.
Other 14ers. In the park, I don't know if I have. I mean, many outside of that area. Good. All right, next question.
Yeah.
So filming this, it added an extra day to it. So we would have for sure done this in 2 days. It's possible it can be done in one. You would have to be hauling events.
For sure, that's kind of a valid point. It's like when you choose to film something, you sacrifice a little bit of your climbing style to be able to tell a story. So we did have like a fair bit fixed, so we were more easily able to go up and down to camp. In the back. We filmed a variety of ways. John Glasper from Louder Than 11 was up there. He spent one night with us, and he was filming with like a cinematic camera. And then we had GoPros, iPhone. A lot of the footage that was like a little bit rusty. Sorry, there was like a bit of an audio delay. Was iPhone footage, GoPro, or Quentin had a 360 cam.
Can you share something that has strengthened your relationships throughout all your years of working together? Not answer this part, but
So what strengthened our friendship and what we didn't know? Is that what about each other? I think for me, and I'm sure Jesse would say something similar, is like getting put in these mountains in these situations where you're super vulnerable and you're scared and you're like way out of your comfort zone. It's just like a natural place to like grow trust and partnership. I think the foundation of any partnership, romantic or non-romantic, is like trust. And I think over the many years, like Jesse and I have just like learned to trust each other, like more so than probably anybody else on the planet, I would say. So that's kind of like allowed us to kind of like be successful and also just like, I got this crazy idea. And Jesse's like, I'm in. And Jesse's like, I got this crazy idea. He doesn't even tell me what it is. I'm like, I'm there, you know? So.
What's next? Like, what's your next winter project?
That's a good question for this guy. My current project is raising an 8-month-old, which is amazing. We were just talking, we were like sitting here, and Matt looked at me, he's like, I think I've done 514 since that film was put out, and I was like, I just raised an 8-month-old, and I've been trying my face off, because I have limited time now to get better at rock climbing. It's always been challenging for me, but Matt has been doing.
Well, I have a little kid on the way too, so I'm feeling. Now that underneath my arse to try to wrap up some track projects that I've had for many years that I've kind of walked away from to go to the mountains, kind of reeling back in on some parts of the stuff. So, thanks for having us, everybody.
One more round of applause for Mayor Jesse. I also want to give a shout out to Glenn and Brett from camp for donating $80 screws that they're just throwing out in the audience. So really appreciate those guys for helping out. We're going to take a break and then be right back with our next presentation.
Recognizes the tribal nations of this territory.
All right, let's make our way back to our seats and we'll get our next presentation going. We have a favor to ask for everyone in the balcony not to use the back doors. Use the side doors over here, please. We'd also like to remind people that these programs are being live streamed, so if you have friends at home that were unfortunately not able to make it up to Ice Fest, they can watch these, or you can go back and watch these on our YouTube channel as well. Couple more things, tomorrow after climbing, don't forget over at the Guide Center, we will have our Mountain Books program where Conrad Aker will be signing posters as well as Mark Wilford. And that will be followed by the UPCC brats and beer party. So Make sure you study up on the UPCC. They do a lot of really good work supporting and protecting access to climbing areas in the Upper Peninsula. So 4 o'clock for Mountain Books, 5 o'clock for the UPCC party. All right, you gotta stop talking now. So I'd like to introduce our next presenter, and Mark is a dear friend of this festival. When we first started to take over the festival from Mark Raish, the original organizer, our first call was to Mark, and he was the first professional athlete to come to our event and do a presentation, and it was amazing. The instant success of bringing climbers to Michigan, we had 40 people show up. It was amazing. We went from 10 and jumped all the way to 40. We were really bad with dates. We're not quite sure. We think it was like 17 consecutive years coming out to teach for the festival. He's so dedicated to this festival. He takes everything so seriously, like Ice Fest is for lovers. He met his partner here at a clinic. How long ago was that? How long ago was that? 10 or 11 years, and she's here tonight. So when we say Ice Fest is for lovers, we mean it. So with our 35th anniversary, we had to call Mark and get him back because we missed him so much. And we're just so excited to have him here. And thanks, Mark, for coming out. He's teaching the clinic tomorrow, and hopefully you're in that, and we can share some stories as well. So a big round of applause for our friend, Mark Wilford.
All right, thanks, Bill. Yeah, it has been a few years since I've been here, but really psyched to be back. Really excited to see all the snow and the ice and the winter conditions. I live in Colorado, and we're not having much of a winter out there this year, so I actually haven't even ice climbed this year yet. So tomorrow will be the first time. But tonight I'm going to talk about my career. I've been climbing for over 50 years, and we're going to jump all over the place. It's going to be kind of like a history lesson, and you're even going to see some different versions of what you just saw in the previous show presentation. So get started here. So this is on my last international trip. This is my new friend. It's my first speeding ticket in Morocco. Bill, I think in my profile mentioned I have a problem with cars, and so as I said, I've been climbing a really long time, and I was introduced to the mountains by my father, who was a bit of a mountaineer, more of an outdoorsman and camper. But when I was 11 years old, he took me up to the Snowy Range in Wyoming, and this was in about 71, I think, 70, 71. And so I started climbing pretty young. Did a lot of my initial climbing with a schoolmate named Scott Blanc. So my dad would take us, again, up to the Needles in South Dakota. And then before either of us had driver's licenses, he took us up to Devil's Tower. And got up the tower, back down to the Needles, South Dakota. So I started climbing right at an interesting transition point in climbing equipment. It was when the introduction of the concept of clean climbing was coming to fruition. And Yvon Chouinard decided to pursue clean climbing because the use of pitons was really damaging the rocks. The placing them and removing them and out in Yosemite. So in 1972, he produced a catalog that had this very influential article on clean climbing and the art of the natural protection. And this was right when I was getting going climbing. So it was still acceptable to use pitons and a hammer, but the use of nuts was being encouraged. And so I learned a lot of climbing technique using hammers and pitons, but then also placing nuts and trying to protect the rock. During my high school years, I was very influenced by some of these individuals here. Reinhold Messner, who was a master alpine climber, most known by most people for his Himalayan climbing, but he was also an extremely good rock climber and alpine climber. So I was fascinated with his story. I grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado, and near a bouldering area called Horsetooth Reservoir. And this was made famous by John Gill, so the master of bouldering, and really ahead of his time. And then another fellow who was inspirational to me was Joe Brown, British climber, a phenomenal rock climber and an expedition climber. So these were some childhood heroes here. So Scott and I would go out climbing, and we really started alpine climbing, and pretty much right away. So it wasn't something we grew into, but just went out. I did a lot of bouldering when I was young, and bouldering became probably the primary climbing that I did for many, many years. And the bouldering frequently would be well above the ground without bouldering pads at the time. And so it was a way to develop a climbing skill, both going up and most importantly, learning how to down climb climbing. At the time, I was reading Mountain Magazine, which was a British magazine, and this was also very inspirational to me. The British style of climbing was a very traditional style of climbing, and this magazine was great. Ken Wilson produced this, and it had phenomenal black and white photography. Living in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado at the time was a mecca. It was one of the top climbing areas in the United States, and the main area would be El Dorado Canyon. So this is an area that I spent a lot of time in and learned a lot about ethics, style climbing. It's a very traditional area. Round up climbing, you really almost never waded the road. This is from that red guidebook, 510. Just wanted to excellent effort by the very best climbers. So if you're climbing 510 back then, you're doing pretty well. And then the bouldering too had a different grading system at the time. It was the B system, went from B1, which was about 5'11", B2, clear notch above B1, and then B3 there was no definition. And then also during this time period, there were being some changes made to the ice tools. So previous to this, ice axes were very straight, had very straight picks on them, very few teeth on them. And one, manufacturer, Yvon Chouinard, started to make the tools more technical, more steeper droops to them, more teeth on them, but still a wood or bamboo model. And then he also helped introduce rigid crampons. So previous to this, crampons were hinged. The rigid crampons really made a big difference in the steep water ice.
Nice warthog.
What's that?
Nice warthog, Mike.
Yes. The warthog. So these are drive-in, the center ice screw there is a drive-in called a warthog. And the bottom one is a corkscrew. So I also got into ice climbing. As the previous guy said, there's not much water ice in the Front Range of Colorado, but there are a few flows. This is again with the rigid crampons, technical garments of cotton. And this is actually a leashless tool here. This is a Chouinard helmet. So I was ahead of the game there. But again, the main climbing when I was younger that I did or focused on was bouldering and kind of going around trying to follow John Gill's footprints. This is up at Reservoir again. This is the mental block. My friend Steve Mammon, who I did a lot of climbing with, a phenomenal boulder. Scott Blanc, about 6'6". So if you had Scott spotting you, you're safe. So we call him the Scott. He was the Scott rope. It's another Gill problem. This is the left eliminator. This is done as a double hand dyno. So basically 4 points of contact is gone for a brief period of time. Same time, I was going to Yosemite and meeting various climbers. Someone who was very influential to me was this fellow here, John Backer. John was a phenomenal climber, master solo climber, and really a messiah of traditional climbing, ground climbing, bolting on lead, and so I was quite inspired by him. The high bouldering, my roommate in college was John Sherman, master boulderer and the inventor of the new bouldering system, which was called the V system. John Sherman's nickname was the Vermin, and so he gave the V to the great system, which was an open-ended system, versus the B system, which was closed and not useful. This is John. Jared Moffat of the Horsetooth, top international rock climber at the time, also a very traditional climber. And then was in these late 70s, early 80s that I met one of America's great unsung climbers. This is Skip Guerin, a young Skip Guerin. So I ended up living with Skip for a number of years and doing a lot of climbing. He was one of the most talented climbers I'd ever met. Extremely flexible. This is in El Dorado. Here's Skip working on a route called Sheer Terror. So I think it ended up being about a 512 R or X, something like that. But wild climbing. This is in the Bighorns. This is a Skip working on a new route here. He is trying to pre-place a wired nut in a crack there. And you can see this chasm gives him almost an immediate 15, 20-foot drop if it falls off the first move. That's the belayer Joe down there with a beard watching him. Here he is having gotten the wired nut in. Skip and I both climb barefoot quite a bit. So there's a Skip, a master of this type of climbing. Another technology change for introduction was the introduction of cams. These were spring-loaded camming devices, SCLD. The friend on the bottom, and then the low cam on the upper portion there. These really opened up climbing, particularly crack climbing, hard crack climbing. So instead of having to place a hex, you now could have these cams. So here's here's cams here. This is on a first descent up in Beataboo. So I got excited about traveling to climb. And one of the places I wanted to go was to England, because it's one of the birthplaces of rock climbing and of free climbing. So saved up a bit of money, and in the late 70s, I was able to make a journey over there. I had some contacts of folks to stay with and climb with. And so this is in the Peak District. The Peak District, it's a gritstone and a very staunch traditional area. So very few pitons, but very technical. It's one of the birthplaces of nuts being used in climbing. And I was lucky enough to meet one of my childhood heroes while I was there. This is Joe Brown. Got to climb with Joe and Mo Antoine on Clogging, which is a cliff in Wales. So really excited trip for me. This is about 79, I think. This is in Millstone Quarry. This is a route called Green Death. There's no gear up to this point, so my bladder was able to step back and take a picture. Next, the first piece of gear is going to be a few feet above me there. The route on the left, it's called Edge Lane, a little bit easier. And then this is Master to Breadth, or Master to Edge, I can't remember. Very hard, traditional climb. This is looking up Green Death here. They named it Green Death because it has a little bit of algae or moss on it, so if it's wet at all, it's super slippery, so you don't want to be on it when it's damp. I also had an opportunity to travel to another birthplace of climbing, rock climbing, and this is the what was called Czechoslovakia in East Germany. So this is in the Soviet era, and this was an exchange I was allowed to go on. This is, again, early 80s. And in Czechoslovakia and East Germany, they've been climbing, rock climbing since, as I understand it, the late 1880s. It's on these sandstone towers. This is one of the areas called Otterspot. Here you can see a couple of climbers down in there. But this is, again, is a very traditional area and has some of the highest or the strictest ethics in the world. And the ethics are to preserve the rock. This is a young man I was climbing with a lot, Peter Chermak. And so the climbing here typically is very run out. You'll have a really good piece of gear, and then you got to run it out along with it. This was, again, during the Soviet occupation, Czechoslovakia. They had virtually no Western gear coming in. So for footwear, they're wearing bedroom slippers. And then for gear, you would have these large rings. And then instead of metal nuts or cams, you could only use a knot tied into a piece of cord or rope. And that, again, is to protect the stone, because the rock is relatively soft. So the rings have to be placed on lead, and they're placed with you have this little hammer. You strike the rock with a spike, start a hole, get the hole a little bigger with this thing here, like a corkscrew, and then using this 1 inch or whatever it is size bit, you drill a hole, and this is when you're probably 20 feet out from the last piece of gear. And then you take this square peg and you pound it into the round hole. And there are rings that I clipped that were placed in the 1920s that were still bonded. You could hang a car off this. And then the other piece of gear again were these slings. So you would have different diameters of purlon, and then depending on the type of knot you tied, you would create a different size constriction, and that's what you would use. This is the guidebook. For each tower has its own guidebook, so this is Riker. Here you can see though how friable or soft the stone is. These are from ropes running, up and down for decades. And then here's a rack of knots here. So I got pretty good at went another place knots. Another spire. There was a couple things, that were unique here. One was, a shoulder stand. They viewed the climbing team as one attacking, unit, and so it's perfectly fine to stand on top of your guy, your partner, and climb up and stand on top of that partner. So, it's a three-person shoulder stand here. At the time, I was able to actually free climb some of these shoulder stands, so they were pretty excited about that. Another young climber, Romanos. This is a wide crack opening up. And here you can see the tied off swing there. And then I also was able to visit East Germany, and this is home to similar climbing. And this is the most famous East German climber, Bert Arnold. At the time, he was given the Master of Sport award. But again, similar climbing, you got the big rings, the knots, and then it's typical that they climb barefoot here. So I've been climbing barefoot quite a bit, so I was able to get on some of their climbs there and use the local style of climbing. So then came back. That was a great trip, and you might wonder, well, how do you make money, as a young climber to go on these trips? And construction jobs are typically one way to make some money. And the best job I found was ironwork in the winter. So this is my friend Skip here. Again, I got him this job. Now this is looking down about 4 unfinished floors. So definitely not OSHA correct here. And this is building a high rise up in Breckenridge, Colorado, in the middle of the winter. So we're watching all these folks out there skiing, and then Skip and I are, alpine climbing. It would get so cold I'd have to wear 4 layers of pants and 7 layers of shirts because you're sitting on iron, so it just sucks the heat out of it. But a great way to learn how to suffer. And suffering is what you just saw on the previous show on Longs Peak, Colorado, and this is where I did a lot of suffering as well. So in high school, my friend Ken Duncan and I, so I was 17, Ken was 19. We decided to try to climb, I'll go back. We decided to climb around on the Lower East Face. So the diamond has the Lower East Face, and then the diamond, which you saw earlier. We were going to do a route called the Diagonal Direct, which is a Lake Tour route, the 5984 plus route, and we wanted to do a winter ascent. So we went up December 21st, and over a period of a few days, using some free climbing and then a fair bit of paid climbing, managed to get up this wall. And this, again, it's at 13,000 foot elevation and quite cold. Well, I went back a few years later and wanted to try to solo this Lower East Face and then the diamond. And I wanted to do a route that paralleled the Diagonal Direct. It's called the Great Pillar. And it's this route here. So you go up, traverse into this dihedral, go up, get on the Broadway, then you continue up. In my first attempt on this, I had poor weather. I was bivouacking at a small portaledge. Storm came in, blasted the wall with snow and ice, and that was it. I had to retreat. While retreating, I was rappelling down with an 8 and a 9mm rope. I tied what I thought was a pretty big knot on the end of the 2 ropes, but rappelling down, and I got about 100 feet down to the bottom of this dihedral, stopped, was clearing out a crack trying to find my next anchor. When my feet are on kind of snow-covered edges, and one of my feet popped off. It formed some ice underneath my toe. I popped off, and I fell out backwards, and immediately started accelerating. So I had this big pack on, and I thought I'm dead for sure, because I could only envision this knot compressing and squeezing through the brake bar propel system. Well, when I hit the end of the rope, there was about a 50-foot more stretch, because they're very skinny ropes. I stretched to the ends and then stopped, and I didn't go off the rope. And what had happened was some pitons from my gear rack jammed in between the knot and the brake system and stopped me. So I was left hanging, and eventually got down. But decided to go back, try again. So here's one of the traverses. What I'm doing is I'm cleaning the pitch. So I've led this pitch and had a tension traverse into this crack up to the bottom of this dihedral, and then I propelled down, and now it's hard to see, but now I'm ascending from Jumar back up the rope. So the style of climbing, I'd have to climb it twice and rappel it once to get to the top. A little higher up, again, using A climbing pitons. This is where when I was younger, being introduced to climbing when pitons were still popular, the piton skills are quite handy in alpine climbing. Looking down. And then this is getting onto Broadway. On this particular pitch, my lead line ran out before I could find an anchor. So this is the end of my lead line. So I ended up having to tie the haul line onto that to continue on for another 20 or 30 feet to get an anchor. But on Broadway, established bivouac. And this is in, I believe, January. Well, that bivouac was right back on this point here. Traversed towards us. And I was also going to do D7, popular route. The first route I'd done on the diamond when I was a bit younger. But I'll be doing primarily A climbing, and then doing a hanging bivouac in a soft hammock. There's Chasm Lake there. And this time of the year, the wall gets virtually no sunlight, so it's really pretty cold. Dachstein sweater, so wool, leather double boots. These are wool pants, so a little different fabrics. And then again, this is from days with that piton hammer and I was climbing barehanded most of the time with Miller mitts, so kind of got beat up there. But anyway, this is looking back on my way down. So this gave me a lot of confidence in alpine climbing. And around this time, I met a local climber, Jeff Lowe, and Jeff had started an equipment company called Laptop. He offered me a job as a shipper in the back, so this was great. And but one of the reasons Jeff hired me was because he wanted someone to climb with, do things that he didn't want to do. This is on the first ascent on Chiefshead, northeast face of Chiefshead, Rocky Mountain National Park. It's called Risky Business. So this is one of Jeff's lines that talked me into climbing with him. I also was doing, or had been doing, and climbed with this fellow here, Charlie Fowler. Charlie was a phenomenal all-around climber. One of America's great climbers, climbed all the time, just always climbing. And so this is down in the Telluride area. Charlie wearing Dachstein mittens, so imagine hanging onto an ice axe, slippery wool mittens. But this is a route called Silver Pit. Another change in equipment was the introduction of much steeper droop, reverse droop picks, and then also modular picks or tools, so that the picks can be changed out. So this was a big game changer in the waterfall and alpine climbing. Was this change? This is Charlie here. So another idea Jeff had was to do a long mixed climb down in southwest Colorado. So this is the first descent of Bird Ring Boulevard outside of Ouray, which has become kind of a classic. It's, I think, an M6 multi-pitch. So this is Charlie leading one of the pitches. And again, Charlie here, these are the low hummingbird axes that Jeff was selling, his brother Greg had developed. So I spent a fair bit of time down in the southwest Colorado. This is the Ouray Box Canyon before the advent of farming ice. So this is kind of what there was originally back in the 80s. This is an aqueduct that would leak and into the canyon. So there wasn't nearly as many climbs. Wasn't nearly as many people. Nice. Another big change in technology, and one that really advanced free climbing, was the introduction of soft rubber, sticky rubber. We've gone from the Robbins, vibrant soled boots, the EV, which was popular for a long time, but it was not sticky, it was a hard rubber, the PA, LA, rock shoe, and then what really changed things was the introduction of Spanish rubber that John Backer helped promote in the United States, the FIRE. After that, then was near the same time, La Sportiva also brought in some phenomenal rock shoes. And so this really helped give you more confidence in your footwork. So this is down in Waco Tanks. I really got into soloing moderate rock climbs stuff at the time, keeping my confidence up in solo climbing. And it was at this time, and this is in the late 80s, that I had the idea of soloing this wall. This is the Eiger. It's the north face of the Eiger over in Switzerland. It's one of the biggest walls in Europe. I'm not sure how big it is, but it's at least 5,000 foot wall. So I decided I wanted to try to solo this, and I wanted to solo the original route, which was done in 1938. Went up through here, through these ice fields, and up through here. The Eiger is notorious, and originally it was this big, it was a goal, the Great North Face. It was the big international goal to climb it first. People were throwing themselves at it. It's well documented in this book here, how there's scores, but tens of dozens of people were perishing trying to climb those things. And finally, the story about the white spider, when they did do it in 1938. But it was notorious for being a dangerous mountain. I made my way over to Grindelwald. Didn't have the money to stay here, but I did the Spider Nightclub. The Spider Nightclub was named after an ice field up on the north face of the Eiger. So I got there in September 1988. Went and checked out the weather forecast. It had just stormed and plastered the wall with snow and ice. But the guides assured me that the weather was clear. Give it a day or two. This is a local graveyard. So these are some of the mountaineers who perished on the Eiger. So, this is the face after the storm has gone through. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. It's gonna make the climbing more technical, but this plastering of ice and Barrett glass is going to make the Eiger safer. And the most dangerous part of the Eiger is from rockfall. It's made up of some bands of some poor quality rock. And so most people, or a lot of people, get injured from rockfall on here. So the ice will hold that together, but the climbing will be a little more challenging. So I worked my way up from Grindelwald up along a cog truck. Anyway, so this is just doing a little bouldering along the way up to the Klein Scheidegg, which is set across from the Eiger. And I'll sort out here. This is the gear I'm going to take. I have a single 8mm rope, 3 ice tools in case I break one or drop one. I have a spare. Light rack for pitons, wire racks. I have 1 ice screw. Have some custom made boots. They're a double boot, has a rock climbing shoe on the inside, as an inner boot, and then an outer boot to put crampons on. So this is the gear I'm going to take. I'm going to try to climb it in a day. So if I did climb it in a day, it's going to be a chilly night. So from the hotel, hiked over to the bottom of the Eiger, and it's really an imposing wall. It's very hard to kind of figure out where you're going. The lower section of the wall is fairly easy rock climbing. So on this first visit over, I climbed up about 500 feet or something just to reconnoiter this section of the wall, because I would be doing this section in the dark with the headlamp. So I wanted to kind of get an idea of where it's going. I went back down at the bottom of the Eiger, bivouacked. Had some strange dreams. And got up early. And with that, I'm climbing up. So these lower bands of rock climbing, not technically that difficult. First objective that you look for is called the difficult crack. And I got up, found a difficult crack, went up into the dirt. Found out later that it was the wrong crack. It had some bail off slimes that are grabbed off this one. Got on the right route and met these Belgian climbers. They let me by, so passing some Belgians up onto what's called the Hintertoiser Traverse. This is a significant passage that Hintertoiser was able to get across. This gives you access then to the first of the large ice fields. Very steep section. So this is on, I believe, the second ice field. So these are the sections that are the most dangerous. There's nothing to hide behind if there's rockfall. So you need to be able to move up this terrain very quickly. Here's the valley down below, and there's a shadow. Pretty much a shooting gallery on these ice spaces. So hurry up there, and you get up to some sanctuary below the rock walls. It's called Death Bivouac. So this is a significant place again where some folks got to, and then due to weather, were froze to death, and hence the name Death Bivouac here. The Death Bivouac. This is a postcard I took with me, so I could figure out where I was going. So I'm doing the red rock here, the dotted red rock. This is the lower bands. The Hintertoisers up in here. These are these ice fields. I believe the Death Bivouac is right in here. Right here. You head into what's called the ramp, then the Rotten Crag, Spider Ice Field. So I had this postcard. So now I'm traversing from Death Bivouac over to the ramp. And when I get to the bottom of it, I find this large party of Spanish climbers. And this is going to be disconcerting because I don't have the option of the luxury of stopping and waiting and because I have no bivouac here. I really need to climb this in a day. So these guys were very gracious. There was about 8 of them. They were making a movie about an earlier Spanish attempt or a climb of the Eiger. And a quick note, this is a photograph that was sent to me many years later by a man I met in Czechoslovakia when I was quite a bit younger. His name is Miri Schmid. Miri was trying to solo the Eiger also, but when he met the Spanish, he hooked up with them and then was climbing with them. When I passed them, he took this picture and didn't recognize him from Czechoslovakia. Here's mailed me this photograph. Anyway, again, in the ramp, the initial part of the ramp is pretty easy climbing. This is a big corner system. Again, the Spanish were very, very gracious, let me climb by them early, pulling them at times around them, and so they didn't hold me up too long. Getting up higher in the ramp, you can see the heavy bear glass from the previous storm and making the climbing a little bit more challenging. And then up to the top is called the waterfall pitch right here. It's giant frozen icicle on my ascent. And so this is one of the technical cruxes of the route. Very super steep. You know, I was hanging on a pin, trying to get my ice axe in this icicle, and when I hit it, the whole thing snapped off. And quite large, and went crashing down. And all I can think of these poor Spanish that I just passed, now I just dropped a giant icicle on top of them. And I ended up meeting them later down in the valley, and here's one of the guys I hit. But they were like, oh, it's the Eiger. So they weren't mad at me. So at the top of the ramp, you get some a rest here. I took 2 cigarettes with me, and I smoked a little bit, and I put it out to save it. So here I'm trying to calm down. And from here, then you traverse way to the right. This is called the brittle ledge or rock ledge. It's a band of rock that's fork-walled. So you work your way around to the right, and then you get to a steep section that's vertical, very steep, and this is called the rock crack. So now you got to go up through this band of rock. This was quite a challenge as well. I had there was a couple fixed pins. I had a daisy chain made out of Perlon attached to my waist that had about 4 foot of slack in it. I was able to clip it to fixed pins in case I fell. So I clipped to a fixed pin, climbed up above. I was trying to finish off the move, which required a mantle, but every time I tried to finish the mantle, this daisy cord would go tight on me, so I couldn't finish the move. So I had a knife in my pocket I was able to take out, cut the cord, and finish the mantle. When the Spanish found this, it was brand new Perlon. When the Spanish found it, they thought I was dead. So from here to there, that has dropped you over here on the skyline, and you then traverse towards us. This is called the Traverse of the Gods, so a super exposed ice wall that you traverse, and this brings you into the last of the technical ice fields, the Spider ice field, and again, very notorious for rockfall, especially later in the day. The sun is formed up the upper slope, so again, you want to hurry up the Spider, and so looking down into the Spider. So I'm now getting onto the summit ice slope, and very straightforward, easy climbing, but it's ice, and so if you fall, you're going to be shooting off this thing, so you don't want that. And I got to the top, and on the top, I found this deer. It had a bill. It climbing very well, but it was to so-and-so, good luck on the descent. Was to drink this. Anyway, after that, I got more involved in the outdoor industry, and that's one of the ways I was coming up here, and I met Bill. And one of the places I climbed, and I still think it's a great place, is down in Arkansas. So if you're from the Midwest, I'm sure you've climbed down at least Horseshoe Canyon Ranch or whatever. But this is one of the first ascents I was able to do down at Sam's Throne. Kept up my ice climbing. This is in Colorado. This is an ice climb that went bad. It's on the Big Thompson River, and a little late in the season. I was climbing up this thing, that put the tool in, just snapped right across there. You can see the void. Fell into the river, and fortunately, it was cushioned by the water down the river. So another subject that we've seen this evening, and I'm going to get a little different story about, is again Trango, the Nameless Tower. So this was first climbed by the British, and one of my heroes, Joe Brown. I was invited there by Greg Child, an Australian climber, who's a phenomenal all-around climber from hard rock, big wall climbing, Himalayan climbing, G4, all sorts of Himalayan climbing. And Greg had already tried to climb Nameless Tower once, but he invited me to go with him and try a new route on the east face. So this is approached a little bit longer approach to get onto the Dungay Glacier. And it's a very involved, at the time, it was a very involved process of getting your gear to the base camp. You have to hire a bunch of people, porters. The hike was much longer. The road didn't go into the mountains as far as it does today. It's a big process. This is getting our crew together on a river crossing. The approach to these mountains frequently is the most dangerous part of the whole expedition. Falling in the rivers, big rock falls, trucks going off the roads, that sort of thing. So we're going to try to do a route up through here. This is Great Trango, by the way, here, huge wall. So again, occupy myself, was doing a lot of bouldering, but one boulder problem went wrong. Took a big fall, hit a stone that had like falling onto an axe blade, cut it down to my knee, down to the bone. Big concern from infection. Fortunately, the weather got really bad. So we couldn't go climbing, and so my friend Greg couldn't be so mad at me as we weren't missing any climbing weather. So got my knee back together pretty much. We went up on the route. And this will be mixed climbing, so a lot of free climbing, some aid climbing. We're doing what's called capsule style climbing. So you would climb up a set of bivouac, maybe do a couple pitches, come down, and then bring your camp up to that point, and then gradually work your way up. So this side of the mountain is very steep and very technical. Would be very difficult to free climb, and very hard to find bivouac sites. So we had a double person portaledge. We'd set up again, climb a couple pitches, fix, and then eventually when we ran out of we only had a couple ropes with us, so we could only fix so much. Then we pull the camp, move it. This whole trip, we were having poor weather, and on this, I forget which day this was, the weather started coming up. We kept climbing up. Here you can see the deteriorating weather. So full on conditions here. And then, we ended up hitting this amazing crack. It's a finger crack that went for about 200 feet, just a splitter crack, amazing. Like, this is when this storm started coming in. So, Greg, was belaying about 2/3 of the way up this crack and was leading as the storm came in, started to bring down some sleet. I got to the top of the crack, it ended, abruptly ended, and I was forced to pendulum off to the side quite a ways and hit another crack and then hit some terrain where I had to do some very difficult hooking, bad hooking, such to get to a hanging belay. By this time, the wall was starting to get plastered with air glass. The rope was coated in ice, and Greg was not able to climb up the rope with the descenders. So I had to cut the haul line, or the haul bag loose. I pulled it up, got a dry rope out of that, and was able to get an end to him and then bring him up to a belay where we had a hanging bivouac. Here's the gear that's happening, just encasing our gear in ice. We were able to get our poor ledge up, but we were at this point approaching hypothermia from this ordeal. We were soaked, freezing. Greg had these pills that were a vasodilator that we ended up having to take, so that it's kind of risky. It takes the blood from your core and flushes your extremities so you don't get frostbite, but you have to be careful with it. So we were lucky to get this poor leg up. The storm persisted for a couple days, and it was getting terrifying. There was big sheets of ice that were falling off above us and shattering around and bombarding the poor ledge. Greg finally said, "We don't go down now, we'll never get out of here." So it was heartbreaking, but we ended up having to retreat in a storm. Another close call here from a hanging stance. I was getting ready to rappel, had a giant pack on and everything's icy and stuff. I clipped my rappel device to my locking carabiner. It was a strange carabiner. It was a Screwby 3D. It had a weird twist in the carabiner. And as I was hanging at this hanging stance, I had one arm hanging on the anchor. I pulled up, got the rappel line taut, put some weight on it, and then heard a click. And I looked down, and my figure 8 had come unclipped from my harness. And so all I was doing was hanging my one hand from the rappel anchor. So I pulled up and stuck my other arm into the sling so I could reattach. Almost. So we were forced to retreat back to America, and on the way out, as we're hiking out, Greg said to me, "We got to go back." This would be his third term. So we did go back a couple years later, same approach, and at the same time, there was another expedition in there making a movie about base jumping. Base jumping is when you jump off of a building or an antenna or a cliff. And these Australians were trying to make a movie about highest elevation base jump. And so there's two of them, Nick and Glenn. One of them is an emergency room doctor, base jumper, and the other guy is a climber. So they're going to teach each other respective skills and then climb up Great Triangle, which I pointed out earlier. We climb up Great Triangle, jump off, and land on the moon or something. Well, anyway, it was kind of interesting to have these folks in base camp. Greg had also invited another American, Rob Slater, to go with us. So there was 3 of us initially. We're going to try climb on the other side of the mountain, the southwest side. This is where most activity on the mountain has been, where most of the free climbs are. There's a lot more features on the wall. Able to get a good camp up on a shelf, about 800 feet up or something. This is Greg. So this climbing was going really smoothly. we started, fixing the lines and then pulling them up and setting cams, and weather deteriorating a little bit. There's Rob in the background there. So at this point, Rob changed his mind about continuing on, went down, ended up hiking up to Concordia. He wanted to see K2. He's obsessed with K2, and sadly perished on K2 a few years later. Good wax. So Greg and I were going for it now. Steep climbing, a lot more free climbing than on the previous side. And while this is going on, our friends are over here. They climbed Great Triangle, and they're actually right up in here and getting ready. Here they go. So you can see they've been wandering around, hopefully not making a fraction line, but they got to get a site that's open, so when they jump off, they don't get hung up right away. So, pretty interesting watching this go on. While that's happening, Greg and I we're going for it. We've left our top of our fixed lines. We're going for the summit here. And while we're climbing, all of a sudden the rock starts vibrating. There's this wild noise and the tower starts shaking. The whole wall starts shaking. And what has happened is this 100 by 300 foot section of rock has exfoliated directly below us. We're up in here somewhere, and this is all fallen down. This is taken by those base jumpers. They heard the noise, they looked over, and so this is a photograph taken by Leo Dickinson of this exfoliation. So we really didn't know what had gone on below us, but we just continued on. We were okay to keep going, so we kept going. And we ended up climbing into the dark. So I don't have an actual summit shot, but we climbed into the dark and then bivouacked, had an open bivouac. It's the next morning. Very cold, but we're psyched. We've made it. Working our way down. We're really excited to see now our friends. They're over getting ready to base jump. So this is the exfoliation right here that's come on. There's the debris trail. This is where our tent was on the shoulder. Our fixed lines got wiped out and through here. But Greg and I got down and we had to hike over to the other side of the mountain. And just as we did, these guys, this is Great Triangle. They're getting ready to jump off of, and we got to the landing zone just as they were coming down. So this is Nick and Glenn having an amazing adventure. They did make a movie about it. I don't know if it's a National Geographic or what, but very terrifying. Because when they first jumped off, they had these helmet cameras that had so much weight on their heads that in base jumping, it's imperative that you're able to lift your head up to direct your flight, and they weren't initially able to do that, so they started out somersaulting. The film footage shows tumbling through the air, and they finally lifted their heads up. Okay, so I had another solo project of mine, and up in the Canadian Rockies. So this is Mount Alberta. It's an amazing mountain, tucked back in there. And this is the north face. And so I wanted to climb this mountain. Originally, I wanted to climb the Northeast Ridge, which is a safe, relatively safe way to climb this mountain because it's not as exposed to rockfall. And the Canadian Rockies have really poor rock in general. These bands of limestone and stuff, you can see the striated formation. So I tried to climb that, but I got to right in here and just got too terrified. I was just very scared. It's a really desolate, remote place. So I came back, So I came back though, 2 years later and decided to try to climb the North Face. So instead of the Northeast Ridge, climb the north face, which goes up this 2,000-foot ice face, and then a large, steep head wall. This is working up near the top of the this ice base. And you can see how dirty the ice is. That's from the debris that's been falling off. So again, you want to work your way up these sections as fast as you can. Getting into a yellow band of rock initially. This is in the shale. So you can see the poor quality of the rock in here. And then you get up to the bottom of the head wall. The head wall is vertical or slightly overhanging. And when you're at the toe of it, the bottom of it, you can't see where you're going. You can't step back and get a perspective. And so it's really challenging route climbing on this head wall. I climbed up a pitch to some fixed slings. It turned out to be a wrap point. And I really couldn't see where I needed to go. And the climbing's pretty difficult up here. So I came down. And had a bivouac. I got a little protection behind a little rock band. And spent the night and decided I just could not see how to get up to this head wall. Well, my next dilemma was where to go. So I ended up doing this very steeply angling rappelling over to the northeast ridge. So those photographs were taken back in here. I've rappelled over, and I'm essentially at the same place where I retreated from on my previous attack in the northeast ridge. Well, I decided to keep going then, and the climbing got better, the quality of the rock got better, safer from rock fall. So again, this is where I'm at right now, Gloucester's Ridge. But backed off this space over here. Got up onto the summit ridge, had another bivouac. You can see, again, I had a rock shoe inner boot with an over boot, and I was wearing crampons. So the rock shoes really helped a lot because this does have technical rock climber on it. So wearing some Mariockers, oversized Mariockers. This is looking down, then the north face from my bivouac. That's the ice face, the 2,000-foot ice face. That's all the debris. And then this is the head wall right along. There's the sunset. Now it's just a matter of following the ridge line, avoiding crevasses and holes, getting up on top. And this mountain is pretty unique in that it doesn't have a flat top. It's got a northeast ridge, a northwest ridge, and then a south ridge. And they're all vertical faces on each side. So I'm going to descend the original route, which was done by the Japanese in 1928. So just from up there, this serpentine way down to us, descending some of the rock terrain there. So this worked out. I didn't climb the mountain exactly how I wanted to climb it, but I did climb the north side of the mountain, and it was quite an adventure. So then I've got the last thing we're going to talk about was a big trip I took back into the Karakoram, which is the range where Nameless Tower is. And I'm going to be going into the back side of the Pakistan side of the Karakoram, which is where K2 is and such. And we're going to be going up into Kashmir and up to the disputed borderline between India and Pakistan. So when the British pulled out in the 40s, they put in some arbitrary borders that left people not feeling and it's now a closed area, and it's been a high altitude battle zone for decades between the Indians and the Pakistanis. Close to climbing, but was able to get on an expedition with a friend of mine I'd been climbing with a bit, Mark Ritchie. This is Mark with a super strong logger here. So Mark knew Christian Bonington, who's a famous British mountaineer, and he got me on a trip with him to Greenland. And so Christian got this expedition going with a fellow mountaineer named Harish Kapadia, who's kind of like the Christian Bonington of Indian mountaineer. Scores of expeditions and trips that authority on Indian mountaineering. So Harish knew some mountains in this closed area, and Harish also had a son who was a leopard, snow leopard in the Indian army, and it's like they're special forces, and they're fighting Islamic extremism, and his son was killed in combat. So Harish had some connections with the Indian military and was able to get permission because he was an expert and famous and had this family connection to the military. So he was able to get permission to go into this closed region. This is our liaison officer. His name is Virgenda, a very serious fellow. He's also a snow leopard, special forces. But we would have to have military escort, and there's a lot of military presence and checkpoints to go through to get into this region. We arrived in Leh, and this is very near Tibet, China. So the culture here is primarily Tibetan, Buddhist, and amazing place. And let's see if I can. We'll be coming from Leh over what's called the highest motorable pass in the world, 18,000 foot pass, into the valley here, and then up into this region and into this Arganglas range of peaks. The Siachen Glacier and the conflict is right up here. It'll be very close to that military area. So we set off overland, and this is, again, frequently one of the most dangerous parts of an expedition is just getting to the climb. Up this Cardamom Pass, through here. Roads are frequently being washed out, rock slide, cars going off the road. And then here we are. They say it's 18,000 foot. I'm not sure, but that's what they say. And then we'll drop down, go through some frequent military checkpoints into what's going to be called the Nubra Valley. So here's Harish and Virgenda getting processed through another checkpoint. And then we're into this really idyllic valley, and they stayed at this guest house here to kind of get our stuff together. Again, we'll have to hire some porters, or these are going to be horsemen that are going to deliver us into the mountains. But really pleasant place to stay. Christian loves playing bridge, but you better at least try to understand how to play bridge. You want to go on a trip with him. So. And then Harish was able to get us into the local temple. Really cool Tibetan place there, and get us a blessing or a prayer chant for the safety of our climb. So this is being prayed for, and we're going to need it. So heading head out up the valley, using again ponies, horses. It's gonna take a few days carrying all the gear in. Setting up camps, a little repair on one of the horses. And then we'll get delivered onto the Arkansas Glacier here. This is our camp, again, the bridge. Mark Ritchie. And here's Christian. I forgot to mention, this was in 2001, late October 2001. This is Christian with his satellite hooked up computer. So this is pretty early for this technology, and the porters were fascinated by this. This is all unclimbed terrain here. Amazing people right there. So this expedition has some Indian climbers that will try objectives, and then Christian and his partner Jim will try something, and then Mark and I will try an objective. And what Mark and I are going to try. So this is what Mark and I are going to try here. It's an unclimbed mountain. It's obviously quite technical. We want to do this ridge line up through here. So we picked this line out. We've told our friends we'll be coming down the east face if we succeed. So they'll be able to watch us, weather permitting. So from base camp, we hiked over to the bottom of the wall, and this is weather is not perfect, but again, you have time constraints, so a lot of times you have to start a climb in poor or not perfect weather. The weather isn't perfect, but we go over. It's not super cold, just gonna precipitate. Have a bivouac, and then start up. And we're gonna go alpine style here. Carry all of our gear with us. So initially, climbing is pretty slow. Our packs are very heavy, but climbing's not super difficult, but just slow going. This peak is a little over 6,000 meters. There's Mark climbing up, and we'll set another bivouac. So we have this little tent we'll try to set up on ledges and stuff, tie off, and continue on. The climbing though becomes quite technical. So A climbing, free climbing, mixed climbing, tension traverses, but very high quality granite, but very few cracks in it. So it makes for difficult climbing and frequently hard to get protection in. There's cleaning a pitch, getting another bivouac in, and underneath you can see the shelter of this wall here. So chopping out a ledge, the ice, getting the tent back up. So things are going pretty good. Looking down. But it has been precipitating. Here you can see the fresh snow on top of these loose blocks and rock and stuff. So it's making the climbing a little more challenging, a little slower. Look at the heavy packs. There's Mark doing some free climbing, frequently climbing without crampons to just have a better rock climbing advantage. And then we started to run into more challenges, technical challenges, and we started running out of daylight. And so on this particular day, we ended up climbing into the dark, into the night, and I had taken over the leading, and I got to a point on an ice face, and I was out of rope, and there was really no ledges or anything. So I brought Mark up. This has been a super long day here. So we ended up chopping a ledge in the ice, and this is a really strenuous thing to do, especially at the end of a hard day, just to chop into water ice. So a ledge that's wide enough to lay head to toe on. And we got chopped into this ice, anchored in, and really uncomfortable bivouac. And this particular night, then Mark developed a really bad cough, and was sounded terrible. Neither of us could sleep, so we didn't know if it was pulmonary edema or some altitude sickness or some other illness. But the next morning, you can see what we've chopped out. So this is what we're sleeping on, this section here. Chop all this ice out. But here's Mark feeling pretty rough. We're very committed now on the wall, so we need to, we're gonna keep going. I'll continue leading up some steeper mixed ground. And then up these ice runnels. And then finally, we'll start to get up near the summit. So the final ice field. We only had, I think, 3 ice screws. So you had an ice screw for an anchor, you had an ice screw 100 foot out, and then you went another 100 foot and got your anchor. So it's a long run out. And there's the weather's deteriorating. There's the valley down below. Bag will mark Jumars. And then this is coming through the southern cornice. You can see the weather's getting worse and worse. So we get onto the shoulder of the peak. Wrecked our little tent again, and now Mark is deteriorating himself. But at least now we're off the technical terrain. There's where we set that tent up, scrambled up to the summit. So this is looking down from the summit. And now we have a dilemma because we told our friends we'd come down the east face of the mountain, but the east face of the mountain is threatened by huge cornices, and we didn't really think we had enough technical gear to rappel down all that terrain. So we looked down to the south of the mountain, and there was this very benign looking valley that was inviting and would allow us to lose altitude very quickly for Mark's benefit. So we decided to head down here. We're really weakened now, and we don't have much food. We just also decided to abandon some of our technical gear because we don't think we're going to need it. One thing we left was one of our 2 ropes on the mountain. We kept going down for a day and got a bivouac as we got into lower elevations. The temperatures warmed up. Mark's still feeling pretty poor, but at least now we're losing elevation. So we continue on down this valley, and the valley starts to get constricted, flowing water. But we're just glad we're losing elevation and we're not having to do anything too risky. So we keep going down this drainage, and the drainage starts to get steeper and more challenging. Water polished rock and stuff, so we got to be careful working our way down. And then we start running into these steep sections, these waterfall sections, and they start to require that we rappel. So it's sort of technical. The problem is we're very low on technical gear, so this is what we got here. There are a couple pitons, like a cam, a couple slings. Here I'm trying to figure out a piton, placement here. We even ended up using straps off our crampons for slings. So we're rappelling down these waterfalls, and the terrain just starts getting steeper, steeper. The giant chalk stone here, everything's polished from the water. We continue down, gradually running out of gear, and getting very committed. This terrain now is getting to the point where it would be very difficult to reverse what we're doing here. And then it ends up that we have to start rappelling in the waterfalls themselves. This is ice water. We're getting soaked, boots are getting full of water. this one was weird. This was like a luge run. It was like you, snake its way around and it just polished. So it really challenged me to stand up, to continue rappelling. We finally, got down to the end of this rappel, looked at the next one, and it looked like our rope was not long enough to make it double, which meant we would have had to do a single rope rappel and abandon our rope to continue on. And we couldn't tell what was after that. So that was a commitment that we weren't sure we could make. The other option was to try to climb out the side wall of the canyon, which we decided to give that a shot first. So I took off my boots, poured the water out of them. We had 2 pitons left with a wire nut, led up the side of this wall, canyon wall, about 5'9" climbing, with a lot of loose blocks. I was able to get out and get marked up, and we have another bivouac. We're totally out of food now. We've got another bivouac up on the side. So that was, it was either up here or up here, somewhere, that we escaped. So we got out, and now we're very concerned, because we know our friends are gonna be wondering what happened to us. We're able to get a ride. We get out onto the road. We're in the back of the River Valley where we stayed at the guest house. So we were hiking down the road, and we got a ride. There was a woman, a tourist, and she said, "Did you hear what happened?" I said, "No, what happened?" She said, the terrorists had just bombed New York City. This was September 11th. This was 9/11. So this was like 9/13 now. But 9/11 had just happened. Here's the valley that we've gotten into. And so sure enough, we were able to listen to the BBC at the guest house, and this international event had just happened. We were able to quickly get back up to our base camp, because our friends now thought we were dead. Get back up. We didn't want a rescue to be called out or helicopters to go out. And we got up there, and they had built this memorial to us, so they thought we were dead. And this is our memorial. But Christian was super happy that we were alive. We've been on a lot of big mountain expeditions, lost a lot of friends. So he was super happy to see us again. So we, here's the route, pretty obvious line that we did up the sky. And so Christian had contacts. He had his computer, he had contacts with the Royal SAS, the British Special Forces, and Harish had his contacts, and everybody's convinced we could get out of this area, because now the whole world was starting to shut down. Airspace were getting shut down and stuff. Got back to the Newber Valley. This is Harish on the right, and the village elder, and so we asked them what should we call this mountain that we've climbed? There was an unclimbed mountain. And this fellow said, "This is a good god here. This is we call Yamandaka. It's a fierce but benevolent god." So that's the name we gave to our mountain there. Made it out back to the military checkpoints. Here's the military folks meeting with us and congratulating us, helping us get back into civilization. And I went to the retirement after that. So, which is kind of where I'm at right now, retiring. I still climb. As Bill said, I met my beautiful girlfriend here, and she became my primary partner now. And this is a route we did recently. This is the Piz de Deal, the North Ridge of the Piz de Deal over in Switzerland. So one of the best arête climbs and a very safe climb. ridge climbs and stuff, safe from Rockwell. It's my daughter, Lila climbing. Flat irons and boulder. And this is my son Charlie with his friend Pikachu on the summit of Mount Fuji. And this is the Old Manor Store. I took Charlie up the Old Manor Store. Anyway, that's the end of my slides. I hope it wasn't too long for you. Thank you.
One more hand for Mark. We'll get the red raffle tickets out. We have a short raffle tonight because the after party is the street party at East Channel Brewery, put on by Black Diamond. All right, first ticket for the North Face pack.
Does anybody want this pack?
Ticket number 4449029. So Camp was very generous earlier in the show to give out all those screws. Now they're giving out a helmet. 318-5314. All those great mountaineering shots from Mark. We got a mountaineering tool from DMM. 444-8990.
Yes. What?
All right, I want to see this at the street party tonight. Donated by Gravel, we have a leopard print harness. 444-8979. Three 5107. That was so good, we're doing it again. Leopard skin harness and a gear rack rope ramp. 444-8980. Who's our title sponsor? Right, we're going to give away a pair of Stinger crampons. 318-5157. Donated by Detroit Outdoors, we have a Mystery Ranch backpack. Three 5161. We have a BB helmet. 444-8963. So an Arc'teryx Duffel, bring home all this gear, 318-5439. We have a Petzl harness, 318-5343. We have, anybody going to the speed dating today?